My cousin Trina and I were as thick as thieves growing up. Our families had settled in the same suburban enclave, our white picket-fenced houses standing just a stone's throw apart. We would climb trees in our backyards, our youthful laughter echoing through the quiet streets. Our parents joked about how we might as well have been twins, so inseparable were we. We attended the same small elementary school, a quaint brick building nestled amidst sprawling oaks and chirping birds. We would walk together, hand in hand, our backpacks filled with textbooks and dreams. We shared everything from lunchboxes to secrets, our bond seemingly unbreakable, fortified experiences and mutual understanding. Our young days were spent playing hopscotch in the schoolyard, tracing shapes in the clouds and sharing cotton candy at the local fair. We were always together, a dynamic duo, navigating the world side by side. Our childhood memories were woven together, a tapestry of shared experiences and laughter. As we transitioned into middle school, our bond remained strong. We faced the trials of adolescence together, supporting each other through awkward school dances, the rigors of growing academic pressure, and the emotional turmoil that marked those tumultuous years. We were each other's constants, our shared history serving as an anchor in the stormy seas of teenagehood. We were the kind of best friends that people wrote stories about, our friendship spanning years and weathering storms. The same friends surrounded us, drawn to our strong bond and infectious laughter. We were a beacon in the social scene, our friendship an example for others to aspire to. But as we transitioned high school, I started noticing subtle changes. Trina began socializing with a different crowd, a group of older kids known for their rebellious streak. It was a gradual shift, her new friendships slowly chipping away at our once unshakable bond. I watched with a heart heavy with concern as Trina started distancing herself from me. Her behavior began to change too. She would skip school, come home late, and started disregarding the rules that once governed her life. Her laughter became less frequent, her smiles forced. I saw a shadow of my once vibrant cousin in her now distant eyes. I tried reaching out, tried reminding her of our shared past, our laughter-filled memories, but it seemed as though she was slipping further and further away. Conversations became strained, our interactions limited and devoid of the warmth that once characterized them. Trina had always been spontaneous, but her behavior now became erratic, her moods unpredictable. She would switch from being cheerful to angry in an instant, her emotions as volatile as a stormy sea. It was a drastic change from the Trina I knew and loved, and it left me feeling helpless and scared. There were times when she became downright scary, her actions defying reason and logic. I watched her spiral, becoming a whirlwind of chaos and uncertainty. It was heartbreaking to see the cousin I had grown up with, the girl who was more like a sister to me, change in such a way. But no matter how much she changed, no matter how much she distanced herself, I held on to the hope that one day the Trina I knew and loved would return. I clung to the memories of our shared past, the warmth of our friendship, serving as a beacon in the dark. My cousin Trina and I were as thick as thieves growing up, and I held on to the faith that one day she would return to being the Trina I knew. She became distant, erratic, and downright scary at times. One particular night I was home alone. An evening of solitude loomed in front of me, my parents having decided to indulge themselves in an anniversary dinner, leaving me with the sprawling, labyrinthine house we called our home. They had left early, their eager faces lit up with the prospect of a night without parental duties, without the constant need to check on their child. I didn't protest. The thought of an evening of solitude was an inviting one. As the door closed behind them, their laughter and chatter trickling into silence, I found enveloped in the daunting quiet. The house was transformed into a silent, echoing cavern, the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the hallway, the only sound signifying the passage of time. I decided to spend this time in a fruitful pursuit, catching up on much-needed sleep. Just as I was about to surrender myself to inviting arms of slumber, I was jolted back to reality by a soft knock at the door. It was a gentle, hesitant sound, as if the person behind it was unsure of their welcome. Against my better judgment, the curiosity pulling at my mind proved too powerful to resist. Pushed back the warm covers, the chill of the room creeping in, and I got up to inspect the unexpected visitor. To my utmost surprise, it was Trina standing at the doorway. Her appearance was a strange sight. Her usually vibrant eyes were now bloodshot, her clothes disheveled and torn in places. She was in a heightened state of distress, her body shaking as if she was caught in a storm of emotions. After a moment of shock, I stepped aside, allowing her entrance, thinking she was in dire need of help. As she crossed the threshold and stepped, a sense of something not quite right crawled up my spine. Her movements were jerky, her eyes flicking around the room with a strange intensity. Now inside, Trina began to pace around the living room. She moved with a kind of frantic energy, her muttering growing louder, transforming into incoherent ramblings. I tried to reach out to her, to calm her down, but she seemed beyond reasoning. She was living in a reality of her own, one which I could not decipher or understand. Her pacing grew more erratic, each step echoing loudly in the quiet room. Suddenly she ceased, her wild eyes locking onto mine. Her gaze was chilling, piercing, as if she was looking through me, through my very soul. Without any warning or sign of her intent, she lunged at me. Her movements were swift, a terrifying amalgamation of desperation and aggression. I managed to sidestep her, but she was quicker than I had anticipated. With my heart pounding in my ears, I sprinted towards the kitchen, my mind working in overdrive to locate anything that could be used as a potential tool for defense. The stainless steel knife in the drawer caught my eye. I grabbed it, the cold handle grounding me in the terrifying reality. I turned around just in time to see Trina, her face grim and determined, charging at me again, caught in a state of sheer panic. With no other option, I did the only thing I could think of. I swung the knife at her. She fell to the ground, motionless. The next few hours were a blur. The world around me moved in slow motion, as though I were trapped in a dark, twisted dream where reality and nightmare were indistinguishable. Time seemed to stretch on, distorting everything I knew. The police arrived, their sirens wailing in the distance, lights slicing through the night, casting long, eerie shadows on the walls of our once serene home. The moment their boots crossed the house that I had grown up in, the house that had once been filled with laughter and warmth, turned into something else entirely seen. They arrived, those stern faces cloaked in blue uniforms, their expressions a silent testament to the horrific scene they were about to witness. They moved around, their actions methodical and precise. They were professionals doing their job, but their presence felt intrusive, a harsh reminder of the chaos that had unfolded. Shortly after my parents arrived, their faces etched with worry and disbelief. They rushed to my side, their eyes filled with questions, their hands trembling. Yet their silent comfort was a balm, a tiny bit of solace in the midst of unending turmoil. As the night wore on, I found myself in the center of their investigation. I was questioned, my every word dissected, expression analyzed. They took my statement, their pens scratching against the paper, their gazes never leaving my face. I told them what happened, what I could remember. The fear, the confusion, the fight, the final fatal moment. The autopsy report came out days later, revealing a shocking truth. Trina, my cousin, my friend, my sister, in all but had been under the influence of a dangerous new street drug. This revelation was a blow, a harsh stab of reality that made everything that much more painful. The drug had driven her into a frenzy that night, turning her into a creature that I could barely recognize. The police ruled it as self-defense. They said I had no choice, that I was a victim too, but the guilt was all-consuming. It gnawed at my soul, a constant reminder of the life I had ended. I had to take the life of someone I had once considered a sister. The thought was unbearable, but I also knew that the Trina I knew, the Trina I loved, was long gone. She was replaced by this stranger, this alien being who was under the influence of drugs. The person who had attacked me that night, the person I had to defend myself against, was not my cousin, it was Monster. As time passed, and as I struggled to come to terms with what had happened, I realized something. The real murderer was not me, but the drug that had taken hold of Trina. It was the drug that had transformed her, morphed her into someone unrecognizable, someone dangerous. It was the drug that had compelled her to attack, to fight, to lose herself. It was that had ended her life, not the knife in my hand. It was the one that had snuffed out her existence, taking away a life that had once been filled with promise and hope. As much as I wished to deny it, this was a truth that I could not escape. The drug was the killer. And in the end, I realized that the real murderer was not me, but the drug that had taken hold of Trina. It had transformed her into someone unrecognizable, someone dangerous. It was the drug that ended her life, not the knife in my hand.